So this might be a really bad idea to make this, but we're at the Stars Coffee on Nevsky, right by the Kazan Sabor. Um, but sometimes I get into like a real funk, and I try to center myself on like what's important to me. So I sit down with a notebook and my laptop. I try to shut off the internet. I try to shut off YouTube. It's real easy to get caught in like a cycle of just watching endless YouTube videos, and but it's hard now, especially nowadays. Back in the days, it was probably easy to just shut off the internet, but now since we're so connected to everything being on the internet, it's hard to just shut everything off. But one thing that I like doing that's a good activity is like reading. So last night I was actually reading Master and Margarita. I don't know if I talked about this already, but there was a chapter in it that was really cool. It's the second chapter after the devil meets the two guys, the poet and the editor. He actually says that his proof that Jesus exists is that he was a eyewitness to Jesus existing, and he recounts the scene where Pontius Pilate meets Jesus. Jesus is brought to Pontius Pilate and has to, I guess, and it's super interesting. It's super interesting, and it makes me want to read more, because that's so cool. Like, no YouTube video is going to give me that kind of, it puts such a strong image on my head of like a different version of Jesus. The way Bukakov or whoever wrote that book, the way I read it in English because, I want to read it in English first so I kind of get it. If not, I'm going to be totally lost. But the way he portrays Jesus is really interesting, right? So sometimes I come in here and I like take notes and stuff, which is awkward because when I cross the border and I go across customs, they always read my notebooks. So it's a weird thing. I like to do an exercise where I think, well, if I had nothing, because I'm like truly a minimalist. If I had nothing, what would I have left? You say, well, you have your mind. You only have your mind. Well, you could lose your mind too. So if you didn't have your mind, what would you have? Maybe your heart or your soul. But ultimately, in the end, it's just you and God. Whatever that means to you. There's really nothing. So you have to be comfortable with there being nothing. Sometimes I like organizing my material possessions. I like organizing my computer. I like organizing my mind by writing notes. So I come here, I drink a cup of coffee. It makes me feel good, not unhinged, and recenter myself. Anyways, but by the way, that's another thing about watching the internet is that you get recycled ideas. You know what I mean? Everyone is exposed to the same ideas. One of the cool things about being around maybe 30 years ago, a long time ago, is that there was like still exclusivity. You can find something hidden somewhere and take that as your idea, or take that as inspiration for an idea, right? And nobody else necessarily knew about it, and that was generally found like in the analog world. Even in the early days of the internet, you can go searching for some obscure thing on the internet. But now the way the internet is structured, it's very scrubbed and sterile, and a lot of people are exposed to the same things. Even with music, back in the days, you could go to a record store and spend like hours upon hours digging and finding the most obscure piece of music, listen to one song on a CD, that, and then you could take that lyric and like, you know, use it, and it'd be part of like your little secret, you know, treasure, and like no one would know it, right? You know what I mean? Or like if you found like, let's say for example, like a quote, you found like a quote, right? Like there's no way that anyone would know that quote, because you dug for it in like a book. Nowadays it's like if you find a quote that's been on the internet, I mean, a million people have seen it already, so there's no point in it. You look stupid just taking that, and it's kind of depressing. But luckily you could still read books and find things that nobody knows about. Master and Margarita, I just read that book yesterday, and it was like there's so much depth to it, you know. Even the Satan character is so interesting though. I mean, it just paints such a vivid picture. I love how he laughs. He laughs like at everything. He thinks everything's funny, and his argument about a god. He says, well, you know, who's in control of your life? Like, do you think you're in control of your life? Because you can be in charge of something, but literally tomorrow you could die. And then, so what happens if something, once you die, like, what then? So clearly something else is really in charge that you can't see necessarily, and that maybe there's a system in place so that, I mean, the way he puts it is like, it's perfect. It's totally in alignment with like these kind of esoteric teachings and like universal law and stuff like that. I just thought it was super interesting. I don't even know how to explain, like, I think it was about like free will. It wasn't about free will. It was just about like, okay, so you could have a plan. Let's say you have a plan. So your plan would fall apart after one generation. It just paints a beautiful point about like, there must be something controlling everything. I mean, just imagine, not even that there must be, but you have to think like there could be. I don't know if like there could be, but like, and then yeah, I don't know, that doesn't really make any sense. I wonder if anyone else has read that book. I find that part very, very interesting. And the funny thing is that I've heard that idea from different places too, like literally identical. There's one thing that I've read like a million times, not a million times, but I read it multiple times, and I get so many ideas from it. And it's about that. It says like, what makes you think? Like, people are so like, I don't even want to mention it, but you just gotta ask yourself, like, do you really think, like, for example, people thinking that a president affects things, especially in the States, like, you know, 4 years in, 4 years out. I mean, it's silly. And I'm not arguing, like, I'm not asking people to, you know, it's just an idea, you know, because the one part that was really interesting is that the devil, he goes, you know, you can't even predict what happens to you tomorrow, much less, and so he says like, such a short time is 1,000 years. And I love that, because like, I don't know if you guys know, but I really struggle with the timeline of history. It's so obvious that the timeline of history as we know it is completely I mean, it's just like not what we think it is, as far as we're told. Most things that we hear, that we know about, it's like we just know like to like the 19th century or like maybe the 18th century. Some things in Russia go back to like the 12th century or something like that, but even that is like such a short time. And if you just think about your own life, it goes by so fast, like 100 years. I mean, and then there's people that think like the earth, we've only been around for 2,000 years. I mean, it's crazy, you know, like, I guess everyone could have their opinion about it, but to me, like deep down, I just have a sense that time, like the timeline of history is way different than, you know, what we're taught, meaning like it's a lot longer, a lot longer. But who could say, you know, like, I don't know. But I really like that part about like 1,000 years is nothing, you know what I mean? And like you can't even predict what happens to you tomorrow. The book is really good, man. Yeah, so like I had the idea to make like a video and make it, you know, I get the idea and it becomes super complicated. Like, for example, there's a lady in my hostel. She's like an older lady, right? And I saw her come in. She's wearing like a fur coat, and Russian women wear like the fur coats and they look beautiful. They just look so elegant and amazing. And the lady comes in and I look at her, we make like eye contact, and she just gives me like a smile, you know, like the warmest, most like beautiful smile like you can ever imagine. And that was it. And I want to turn that into like some kind of like idea for like a video of like a million things that I like about Russia, and go on and talk about all this stuff like the street and the doors and like the this and the that and like everything. But I figure I'd just say it on here, you know, like in the winter, the Russians with the fur coats, it's just like so amazing. And I might make like, show some pictures, like look, there's a girl sitting over there in a fur coat. I'm not gonna zoom in but there's just something special about Russians, bro. I say it all the time. But that lady, she gave me like the warmest, like nicest smile, and it feels like, I don't know, I got the sense like that she was from, like she came from another like time period, you know, like that she came from like another era from like a very, very long time ago and like teleported to this era. And I've been getting the sense of that recently. I wrote about yesterday, there was a girl that I met at a hostel in Chicago, and she was really young. She was like 18, but I knew for a fact that she might have been around like thousands of years ago. For sure. I was like 100%. I don't know do you ever think that? Do you ever think that you met someone and you were positive that they might have been like ancient? Like ancient, and that they were just in this world, you know, as like a, they just hopped into a body in this modern era, but their energy, everything about them was like ancient. And yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. But yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. So this girl that I met at the hostel, right? So she was just really different, young girl. And so one night we were up all night. It was like a group of us. You know, we were up late or whatever. And you know, I like love my sleep, you know. So it was getting late and I was getting ready to go to sleep. And she asked me, she's like, do you know what time the sun comes up? And I was like, I look on my phone, because on the app it tells you when the sunrise is. And I told her, you know, it's probably like around 6 or something like that, or maybe 5:30 or something. And like she stayed up like all night just to watch the sunset or the sunrise, you know. And I could totally relate to that. You know, some people do it and it's pretty corny to sit up and watch the sunrise, but you know, some people really, it's like a real thing that has like it's really meaningful to them to watch the sunrise. It's really important. And the way she asked, it's like she probably would have stayed up like for days just to watch the sunrise. It looked like she was really into it. And she stayed up all night by herself and watched the sunrise. And you know, me, I went to sleep. Like, I've definitely seen my share of sunrises, Like I used to force myself to wake up in the morning just to watch the sunrise. So I get it. But I think about stuff like that and I'm like, you know, I mean, I don't think that I just am grateful for like that kind of insight to run into something like that and get the idea that, you know, this girl might be ancient. Like she might be literally a reincarnate. Like I don't even want to say reincarnation because that's like a weird label. I don't know about reincarnation or anything like that, but you just get the sense like she's here, but she's from a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? I guess people say like, oh, you're an old soul, blah blah blah. Like that can be real. And then I think about myself, I'm like, have I been here before? Because I'm really stupid. So I think that I might not have been here before, but I don't know. I wonder if you have any thoughts about that. For any of the deeper people on here.